Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from Flint, Michigan. So, Michigan beat down on the Turtles 38-7 at Maryland. The game started off hot with a Giles Jackson kick return for a touchdown. It was blocked great. It was good to see him finally get a touchdown this year on one of these kickoffs. Um, and then Maryland got the ball. They controlled the ball, especially in the first half, but they were scoreless. Our defense bent, but they didn't break. And then we started to really get after it in that second half. The offense, I've noticed, seems like we're running the old Jimbo offense now with a little more power blocking scheme. And it seems to be working out well. I think our backs are better in this type of offense. Charbonnet looked good. He set the freshman record for touchdowns. I think he's got 11. And Haskins also had a touchdown. And when True Wilson was in there, he had a nice couple runs there. Especially, I think he had like a 39-yard run. He finished it by running over a guy, really setting the tone for the game. So, the running backs are looking good, and in the future, we're in good hands at the running back position. And I did notice today that Chris Evans said something about coming back, so we'll see if he ends up joining back with the Wolverines next season. We didn't necessarily dominate in the trenches. I thought we were just going to dominate the line of scrimmage on offense and really just run all over them. Maryland, they stayed 8-man in the box, and I thought maybe we were going to start throwing the ball around. We didn't really see that either. It's kind of a boring game offensively, but, we stepped it up on other places like special teams. Devin Gill had that blocked punt, so we had a little bit of short field. So it was good to see the special teams really get out there and get after it, in all assets of the game. Nico Collins continues to be a beast. These 50-50 balls, more like 80-20 with them. As I said earlier in the year, I want to see them throw him the ball all game long. I don't think anybody can guard him. I really do think that he's one of the best wide receivers in the country. Feeding the rock. He's always getting up at the highest point. He almost had a sick catch there that he got his feet down out of bounds. I think it was a one-handed grab, man. He's a monster. Love the guy to death. One person I am kind of disappointed in is Nick Eubanks. He catches the ball here and there pretty well, but in the second quarter he had a drop, and then the next play he just completely whiffs on the block and completely whiffed. Just pretty much was standing there. We need to start tightening these things up as we get closer to the big game against Michigan State and, of course, the end of the year with the game against Ohio State. Especially special teams with the field goal kicking. We really, really, really need to figure this out. We're going to have to play flawless to beat those guys. So hopefully we can fine tune these things with the weeks coming up. So, the offense is a little bit different. I think it's better than what Josh Gaddis was running earlier in the year. I don't know if it's because of Shea Patterson not being able to make the reads or what it is, but I think our offensive line is probably more comfortable with the power blocking scheme, and I think it works out better for him. We got a big offensive line, get those guys moving, making those big holes for our guys, and our backs are really patient. I absolutely love our running backs. Like I said, we're in good hands for the future. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be a Michigan fan. And, of course, The Don Brown defense just continues to dominate. Those first two drives, Maryland drove down the field, but we ended up stopping them. Mike Dana tipped that one up, and Josh Metellus, who's been playing very well lately, got the pick. The defense in general just seems like they have more energy, and they were talking a little bit of jazz out there. I liked it. They seemed pumped up. And I love that about our defense, man. And our defensive line is just, they look powerful. They look fast. And they've been dominating the line of scrimmage, which is just great. One person that doesn't really get a lot of credit in the national spotlight is my boy Mike Dana. The man, he'll make plays that are on the stat sheets, but he'll plant the quarterback. Actually, just any of the defense line, man, they plant the quarterback and they tend to quit. And seeing that trend, so hopefully, against like Ohio State, we can put Justin Fields into the dirt and make him feel uncomfortable back there. And don't let him get off clean balls. Hutchinson's really been playing good, man. He's just an absolute freak. Kwity Paye is a freak. They just really get after it. They're really good in the run game. Our safeties playing lights out, I think. Once we start to limit the one-on-one chances of them in coverage against better wide receivers, they tend to get some hate on that, but if we fix that up schematically, I think we're going to be fine. Because we're not going to be able to do that stuff against Ohio State. They'll put their best guys in the slot and one-on-one. It's just an unfair advantage. Hudson's been playing very well. He's, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast or maybe 2 podcasts ago, but, he's super effective in blitzing. Every time they blitz him, he's hitting home, or, at least pressuring the quarterback. He's getting tons of tackles. He's tackling better. I know in the beginning of the year, especially like in the Wisconsin game, he wasn't really tackling as good, kind of over pursuing, getting out of position. But now he's breaking down, making the tackles. So as a defense as a whole, I think we're improving. We're starting to look more like a Don Brown defense, and it excites me. And around this time of the year, we always get excited. And, at the end of the year, the last game, we kind of, we get let down, especially last year when Ohio State kind of blew our doors off. But, it's exciting. I know, people are hating, but we've outgained opponents. Michigan has these past 10 quarters that we've been playing pretty much lights out football. 1,016 yards to 493 yards with yardage, and we've outscored opponents 97-28. So, not a just absolute huge stat guy, but that's it. Those last 10 quarters, man, we've been a completely different team. If we would have came out there and played like this against Penn State in that first half, it might have been a different game, even though we still had a chance to tie the game. Which is still just heartbreaking. Still just heartbreaking thinking about it. But, it is what it is. We still have these games to play for. Sparty next week. Bye week this week. And as we all know, a couple years ago, we came out flatter than hell against State after a bye week in that monsoon in the big house. And it always seems like when we're playing Michigan State, it's always just a mud bowl. It's just nasty weather. And, that's goes into Michigan State's MO. They muck up the game, and, give themselves a chance to win it. So, hopefully these guys stay focused and this bye week isn't really going to set us back a little bit. Hopefully we can improve. State hasn't really been looking too hot as of late. But, it's still dangerous. They live to beat Michigan. That's their Super Bowl. Good thing is that it's at the big house. So we'll play them this coming up week. Well, after this week, I'm sorry. It almost seems like the Michigan State program's falling apart, but I think Dan Antonio will have them ready to play and pumped up, man, because they always do. It's always going to be a good game. It's going to be a battle. So, you can't underestimate them, even though they have Joe Bocci was out for substance abuse. I think steroids or something. I don't know what it was. But, having a lot of transfers going out. But, I guess that does just happen anyways with any team. Michigan even has them as well. But we should dominate the game. Their offense isn't very hot. It's pretty vanilla. But they do have some athletes like Stewart, even though he'll probably be out 5 plays in the game because he'll probably lose his helmet. He's always losing his helmet. But, we match up very well with them. And I think if our defensive line continues to play like the way they've been playing, it's going to be a tough game for them. And hopefully the offense can continue to get better and, show us some more. But like I say, I feel more comfortable with Shea in Harbaugh's offense than the new stuff that we were running earlier in the year. I don't really know. People talk about if Shea's even capable of doing it. I don't know. I was a hater on Shea right before that Penn State game, but I would say against Penn State, that was probably his best game I've seen him play, against a tough opponent. So I can't really hate on him anymore. And, we're going to be living and dying with him. And, I thought it was pretty funny with on the sideline reporter, I forget her name, it was like Molly something, and asked the stupidest question in the world, like to Shea, something about the playoffs. He just laughed her off. But, let's give a round of applause for Molly for asking the hard questions, just kind of throwing it in our face that we won't make the playoffs this year. Everybody wants to kick Michigan when we're down. It seems like it's us against the world, especially with those ESPN reporters. They rip on us. They rip on Jimbo. They love it. They love ripping on Jimbo. I absolutely hate it. And I think it's a shame that they try to dictate who's going to get fired, speculations, all that stuff. And I think it's an absolute joke. And that's why I'm just, it makes me like Harbaugh even more. It makes me want him to succeed even more because I just want him to throw it in their faces. I know this year, we're out of the Big Ten title race for the most part, unless some absolute crazy stuff happens, but it won't happen. So, I just want them to finish the game strong, the season strong, and, shove it in their faces, man. If we can beat Ohio State, we can really change the narrative and really start to gain some momentum, for the next year. And we got a young team. Folks, we got to remember, we lost all these people to the draft, great players, Michigan greats, Rashawn Gary, Devin Bush, Chase Winovich, David Long, important pieces to our defense. And, now the defense is kind of honing their craft and has been playing well. And I love that. I love when we're running the ball well, just dominating the line of scrimmage, and we're playing just lights out defense. It gets me pumped up. Like I said in the last podcast, that's Jim Harbaugh football, and that's just how it's going to go, man. So I'm not expecting us to just light up the scoreboard, but, we just need to keep mucking up the games and just battling. So, we'll see how this Sparty game turns out, I think that Sparty magic is starting to wear off for him. And Dan Antonio's got to be feeling the pressure. You're getting a lot of that. People, of course, ESPN, everybody's, he's on the hot seat as much as he's done for that program. I think it's kind of a shame. But, whatever. That's not our deal. It don't matter to me. Whatever. I don't care who it is. We just need to beat them down. Take our dominance back in that series, which for the most part we have. They got a little lucky with the play of the century, which I guess it wasn't really luck. It just happened. And like I said, it's the play of the century. We'll never, ever see that happen ever again in football. The craziest play I've ever seen. But, it is what it is. Some of these guys are starting to play really well. Vincent Gray continues to play well. Lavert Hill played pretty well. And we held McFarland and I forget what the other running back's name, but they're good backs there at Maryland. We shut them down quite a bit, and you could tell. I think the guy's name's Josh Jackson. For the quarterback for Maryland, you could tell he was getting frustrated, and once you put him in the dirt a few times, it's just you don't want to play the Michigan defense when we're getting after you. So it is what it is, but hopefully we can continue just to get better. That's all I'm hoping for. I understand to most people it's a lost season, but to me it's more about developing these players, starting to build the program up even more and more and more, getting these guys' confidence up, and hopefully next year we can really take a step forward and potentially go into the Big Ten title and hopefully go into the playoffs. We all know we want it. In the past few years we've came up short. And we control their own destiny, and it's all about that game at the end of the year against Ohio State Buckeyes, baby. And, they're the juggernaut in the Big Ten. And for us to be the juggernaut, we got to beat the juggernaut. So, it is what it is. I'm just so sick of hearing the, fire Jim Harbaugh stuff. Let the man do his job. I think he's doing a great job. We've came up short a lot of times, but we're one win a game from really totally changing the narrative of all this stuff. So one of these times we've got to beat them. We've just got to do it, and hopefully we don't slip up to teams like Wisconsin, all of them. We just got to beat them down, move forward, gain momentum. Because, I don't think, and I'm not going to lie, at one point, I was so furious after that Wisconsin game with Jim Harbaugh. I think I was almost calling for his head as well. But, after a few days of calming down, I still love the guy. I think he's a great coach. He fits Michigan football, and, he put us back on the map, folks. So don't be listening to your Paul Feinballs, the ESPN cronies that just rip on him all the time. I've just never, ever, ever seen people rip on a coach more than Harbaugh. And maybe he had it coming to himself when, he came in and was all eccentric and, he's just an odd guy. I like him. He's just a goofy guy. And I just don't see how we can't love him. He's put us back on the map. Has 10 game seasons, had one down year. And I would guess people would consider this year a down year. But let's get off Jimbo's back. Let's support the man. And, one of these times it's going to start turning around. And, look at Dabo Swinney. In a weaker conference, they pretty much don't play anybody And, it took Dabo around 8 years to really get Clemson into that real good national spotlight and a national title contender. And, I'll give Harbaugh 8 years. If you're not doing it in 8 years, then I hate to see him go. But, 5 years, I guess some people say it's enough, but I want to know who set the standard that 4 years you have to, be a contender. I mean, honestly, Michigan's never really just been a juggernaut. They've had good years, the 97 year, but, there's still a lot of things to look forward for, man. I don't know. I'm just so frustrated. I can't even watch ESPN a lot of the time. And that's just all their segments as well is just, who's coached this, and this. They're trying to dictate people's careers. Well, and the big point that they say is, Harbaugh's been making, this much money. He's the third highest paid coach. Well, he's valuable to the Michigan brand. And, if they think he's worth $7.5 million or whatever it is a year, then that's what it is. So it's not like we're making Michigan go broke here. He's making Michigan buku bucks as well. We've been having people go in the first round. How can people not get excited for that? There wasn't during those eras, with Rich Rod and them, we didn't really have that many people getting drafted. And, we're building a program here. Let the man do his job. And, one of these years we're going to do it. We'll make the playoffs. So that's really all I have today. I know I'm sorry I went on a little bit of a rant about Harbaugh, but it's just frustrating. And, ESPN will jump back onto his bandwagon, and then right when he slips up, they just frickin' throw him back down in the dirt and start burying him, man. And I just hate it. And this is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because they're just so irrational. Like, look at Herman from Texas. Has he underwhelmed? I'd have to say he has. Texas is supposed to be essentially equivalent to Michigan, if not bigger. And, he hasn't done much. And he's got to deal with a juggernaut out there with Oklahoma. So it's just crazy. It just bothers the hell out of me. And, I want to be the voice of reason for Michigan fans. And I understand that people are upset with it. We're underachieving. Especially this year, we had a lot of hype going in. But, logically thinking, we lost a lot. We lost special players. Chase Winovich, just one of my favorite Michigan football players to ever step on the field. He's a funny guy. He's got a personality. We had a complete badass in Devin Bush, who we've replaced with Cam McGrone, the grown-ass man. And, we've got a good core right now for young players. And if we were to run Jim Harbaugh out of town this year, I will be so upset. Man, that's really all I got to say about that. I'll give him 8 years, folks. If he ain't do it in the 8 years, then I would consider moving on from him. But some of these other coaches that, they come up, that would take his job, or he's going to leave here, go to Florida State, or, whatever the hell it is. I just don't buy it. I understand it's all about the clickbait and all that, but I'm just so sick of hearing it. Let the man do his job. Give the man some peace here, folks. Come on now. Let's support the man, because you remember how exciting it was when Michigan actually started to become good again? It's the best. It's the best. And just imagine when he does beat Ohio State and we do go to the playoffs. We win a Big Ten championship. We're going to be absolutely going bazonkers, and it's going to be great. And those times will come. I can't guarantee it. I will not guarantee it. Won't bet the mortgage on it. But goddamn, let's support the man, because it's got to be pretty hard for him. And it's funny because the media always hates on him and everything, and they get mad at him for, giving these bland answers and stuff. Well, hell, I'd be giving you bland answers too if you're just ripping out anything I say. You're just gonna rip on him. The guy can't even walk down the street right without them hating on him. It's a super annoying. But that's really all I have for today. So, subscribe to the WolverineManiac, please. My goal is to try to get to 100 subscribers. I think I'm around 60 right now. So, tell your friends, tell your family, tell any Michigan fan you see. It only takes 2 seconds to like it, subscribe it. I know this isn't the best quality right now, but I'm going to continue to get better. I've got ideas in the mix, in the fold. This might come later in this season, but most likely not. I'm just hoping that I can present better for next year, have a better setup here, and produce it a little better. I'm still learning all that stuff. I just don't want it to look all crappy, and I don't want you to have to look at this ugly mug the whole time I'm doing this podcast. I just don't really know much about the copyright with the pictures. I would like to try to post some videos, but I'm not really quite sure how that works. I don't want to get taken down from YouTube and then I have to redo the whole thing. So, it is what it is. But enjoy the bye week. Have some fun. Watch the LSU-Alabama game. And, Sparty could be on upset alert. And if I was a betting man, I would probably take Illinois I think they're getting 14.5 points. So if you're a betting man, that might be a good one to take, because Illinois has been playing good, upset Wisconsin. And even though it is in Spartyville, but yeah. So I'll make I think I'm going to make a podcast next week about Michigan State, the pre-Michigan State. Get a little more into that. And so enjoy your weekend. And go blue, baby. I'm out.